Suspiria, the 2018 version, is a remake of the horror movie classic Suspiria, which came out in 1977. This year's version is directed by Luca Guadagnino, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Film stars Dakota Johnson. You may recognize her from the 50 Shades films or from Bad Times at the El Royale, which came out a few weeks ago. It also stars Tilda Swinton in a couple of different roles in this movie. Mia Goth and Chloe Grace Moretz are really the other principal characters that I can remember at this time. I'm going to try to tell you about this movie without actually telling you about the movie, because I do feel like this is a film that needs to be experienced, not explained. The basic elements of the story go as follows. There is an American dancer played by Dakota Johnson. She's from Ohio, and she gets a chance to be enrolled in this very prestigious dance company that is set in 1977 Berlin, post-war Berlin. So when she goes there, there's a lot of hectic things going on, but she starts to dance. She befriends some of the girls in this dance company. Along the way, you start to suspect that this dance company is run by a coven of witches. Meanwhile, the more weird that things get, there's also a doctor played by Tilda Swinton who is trying to investigate this school because there are a number of missing girls that have come from this school, and so the closer he gets, the more danger he gets in, and pretty much the longer the movie goes on, the weirder shit gets. Not gonna lie to you guys, I did have some anticipation for this film. I am a fan of the first movie, although it has been a really long time since I've seen it, so I'm gonna try to avoid direct comparisons for now. It tries to do its own style, it tries to do its own thing, and I want to judge the movie on its own merit. You've probably heard a lot about this film in terms of how divisive it is. You guys have probably seen the trailers and you think it looks kind of scary and messed up. You're not going to be able to walk out of this film and feel neutral about it. You're either going to love this movie or you're going to hate it. There's no in between. And while you can recognize some good stuff on either side, like you can recognize why some people would hate it and you can recognize why some people might love it, your feeling on the movie is going to be one or the other. And even after watching the movie, I felt very conflicted about it. I felt very conflicted about how I felt versus how good the movie actually is. And I'm going to try to do my best to be honest here, because there's a lot to unpack with this movie. For starters, I will say that this is definitely one of the best made films of the year. If we're just talking strictly filmmaking, this movie is God tier. There are so many things to praise about the film. You obviously can start with the great performances. Dakota Johnson, who I have called a talented actress when she's not acting in shit movies like 50 Shades, she was really great here. Chloe Grace Moretz was great. She's not in the movie that much, but when she is in there, you definitely feel a strong presence from her. Mia Goth was also great. She plays one of the friends of Dakota Johnson at this school. Big takeaway obviously has to be Tilda Swinton, because Tilda Swinton does play different roles in this movie, multiple roles. I would say the role that stuck out the most to me was her performance as this male professor. In general, I don't think it was really necessary for her to play multiple roles in this movie. Like, I don't get it. They're just trying to say that, yeah, Tilda Swinton, she's really good. She's got Oscar-worthy range. Look at her play this guy. Having said that, while I don't think it was necessary for her to play this doctor, I do think that the doctor's story is actually the story that I was actually the most interested in throughout the course of the film. There's actually an emotional backdrop to his character when you delve into a little bit of his past. From a directing and visual standpoint, this movie is eggs on a tick. It is sex. It looks beautiful. Color palette obviously is a little bit different from the original Suspiria. It's much more bleak and muted, and shades of gray is definitely a bigger thing in this movie. No pun intended, with Dakota Johnson as the lead. They did some really interesting things with the camera work in this movie. Camera work just felt really weird. If I could describe it, I would say it's abrasive beauty. I don't know if that's a thing, but I'm making it a thing for this video. There's so many interesting transitions between shots. There are shots that are over the shoulder shots and slow pan, zoom ins and zoom outs, and then there are these weird snap zooms that happen. Then they take long single takes and then they transition to a big wide shot where you can see a whole bunch of different angles. Visually speaking, I just think the camera work was really interesting in this movie, and I think it did a pretty good job at setting the atmosphere of the movie. This is one of those art house horror movies that's definitely not trying to scare you. It's trying to creep you out. It's trying to get you to say, wow, that shit is disturbing. When you have a film that stylistically is going for that, then a film needs to create the right atmosphere for that. And I think that the visuals, as well as the musical score composed by Tom York, I think is his name, definitely added to the atmosphere and the feeling of suspense throughout this film. In fact, I wouldn't even call this movie a horror movie. I would call it more of like a psychological movie that has horror elements in it. There definitely is an abundance of very effective and creepy and disturbing imagery in this film. This film really tries to go for more the shock value of things rather than just trying to scare you. Certain things that you're going to see in this movie, you're going to be like, wow, I'm just never going to forget that. That shit's always going to be stuck in my head. Definitely, this is a slow burn type of movie, a movie that takes its time setting up the characters and the story. There are a lot of themes and ideas and symbolism and imagery that the movie is trying to convey across to you. It's broken down into acts, so I don't think the movie is too difficult to follow. You love and respect the art of great filmmaking, great sound editing. Great editing writing in general, great direction, great music, all that shit, then I feel like this is one of the art house horror movies that you're going to enjoy. Unfortunately, guys, when I'm breaking down a movie and I'm talking about a movie that I just saw, I don't really think of myself as a movie critic. I'm really more of a movie fan. And as a movie fan, I can honestly say that while this is one of the best movies of the year, I really have no desire to watch this movie again. Rewatchability is a thing for me. It's something that I factor into my ratings, and that's why I really did not enjoy watching this movie. Remember what I said about it being a slow burn? Okay, this is slow burn if it actually was more like melting boredom. The movie just tries to melt your face off with how boring it is. It buries you under all the themes and the symbolism, and it just spins you and melts you rotisserie style. The movie's like 2.5+ hours long, and I walk out of this movie like, damn, okay, but did the movie need to be 2.5 hours long? The movie has a lot that it's trying to pack into its runtime. It has a lot of scenes that are spaced out, a lot of slow moving scenes, a lot of scenes that drag. To be quite honest, there are a lot of scenes that feel really random, some scenes that are going to be confusing to some people, and I just don't know that the movie needed to have all these scenes in the movie. I easily think this movie could have cut it down like 20-30 minutes, and I think I might have enjoyed it a little bit more. Man, by the time you get to like the second act of the movie, the thing just starts to drag. There's just a whole bunch of really unnecessary, boring ass scenes. Maybe if I had felt a little bit more attached to some of the characters that are at this dance company, maybe I would have felt more invested in things. It's just exhausting and punishing to try to get to the finish line in this movie. Even though I do understand and get some of the things that they're going for, it's just not worth sitting all the way to the end to get to that point. I just feel like it could have been edited and cut in a way that made the movie flow a little bit better. This movie doesn't flow as well. It's not as cohesive. There are a lot of different things that it's trying to juggle, and a lot of times it really drags the pacing of this movie down to hell. Suspiria is a movie that you're probably going to love or you're probably going to hate. There's really not a lot of in between. I love the filmmaking that went into this movie, but as a fan of movies, I just can't recommend this one highly. Keep in mind with a long movie, it's not really about how long the movie is, it's about how long the movie feels. A classic example is Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings are really long-ass movies that don't feel long to me. I can watch the extended versions of those films and not get bored. This movie, I got bored a lot throughout the runtime, and I just couldn't help wishing that they had got to the point a little bit quicker. If I were judging this film on filmmaking, it would get my highest rating, but since I can't do that, I'm gonna have to say that this movie belongs in the Fortress of Solitude as an average flick. I love aspects of this movie, but I just can't get myself to give it a positive rating because I didn't enjoy watching it. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace!